Welcome back to Show Summary. I'm going to show you a 2011 comedy drama movie called Intouchables as well as a biography today. Warning, this contains spoilers. Be cautious and mindful. Driss is chauffeuring his boss, Philippe, around Paris late one evening. Driss starts driving quickly, avoiding other vehicles and disregarding traffic signs, when waiting and the dullness of the traffic gets to him. Driss wagers €100 that he can lose the cops as they chase after him as a result. However, the police catch up to them by ambushing them from both sides when they drive beneath a bridge. Despite his lack of concern, Driss wagers €200 that he can arrange for them to have an escort this time. When the police force him to exit the car, he begins acting strangely. He later acts insulting, stating that Philippe is immobile and that he was driving him to the hospital. When the officers search the truck and discover the wheelchair, they have evidence of this. And since it's an emergency, they witness Philippe convulsing as they get closer, which is also an act. After Driss wins the bet, the police offer to help him go to the hospital by forgiving him for exceeding the speed limit. When they reach their destination, Driss shares a smoke with Philippe while playing September by Earth, Wind, and Fire. Driss drives them away just before the medical staff might discover them, promising to take care of the situation as soon as the police leave. This friendship dates back a number of months. To find a new caregiver for him, Philippe and his assistant, Magali, are conducting interviews. However, things aren't going well because every applicant's responses to the interview questions are extremely stilted or unoriginal. They are taken aback, though, when Driss barges in and demands to sign some paperwork, claiming that they won't hire him in order for him to receive unemployment benefits, despite the fact that it isn't yet his time. He even makes crude remarks and makes eye contact with Mugli. However, Philippe finds him funny and requests that he return the next day to pick up his signed documents. Returning to his modest neighborhood house, Driss tries to take a bath while his younger siblings pester him. Only with the help of his older and more responsible sister Mina does he finish in time. He watches his brother Adama get out of a strange automobile via the window while he waits for their mother to come. The boy enters the apartment, but he simply says he was at school before taking off with his luggage, which makes Driss even more certain that he's up to no good. When his mother arrives in the evening, he tells her he's been on vacation and gives her a fabric egg he stole. She asks, but she's not glad to see him because he didn't communicate for 6 months and never showed up. And now he's appeared out of the blue, like her house was a motel. She warns him not to return, kicking him out because she's done with all of his lives and she has other kids to look after. Driss spends the evening with some friends from the neighborhood, enjoying some food and a smoke. Driss returns to Philippe's residence the following day to pick up his paperwork. And Yvonne, the housekeeper, welcomes him and gives him a tour of the property while describing Philippe's daily schedule. She also gives him a tour of his own room, complete with a private bathroom. Driss is pulled to visit Philippe because he can't stop staring at the bathtub. Philippe offers Driss a job opportunity in addition to the signed sheet of paper. Philippe tells Driss he wagers he won't make it through the first 2 weeks when he accepts the 1-month trial. Following his rooming in, Driss receives training on how to look after Philippe. He needs to be taught how to transfer himself into a wheelchair, help him take a shower, and change clothes in order to keep his legs active. When Driss learns he has to clean his buttocks and put on some high stockings after Philippe uses the restroom, things get awkward. But despite his protests and declarations that he won't perform those tasks, he eventually acknowledges them as a necessary component of his work. Later in the evening, Elisa, Philippe's daughter, and her boyfriend Bastien interrupt him while he's having a snack on the roof. They're searching for a quiet place to make out, so he kicks them out for not sharing his drink. Driss makes a few missteps at first, but he rapidly adjusts to Philippe's daily routine. Things like giving Philippe the phone instead of putting it in his ear and forgetting the baby monitor in the bathtub teach him valuable lessons. Additionally, he learns how to categorize his messages into several folders. He opens the majority of the letters for Philippe, but he isn't permitted to view a number of private ones. Rather than tossing a flyer that advertises female prostitutes in the garbage, he chooses to create a file specifically for them. It's not all work, as Philippe points out. But even in this new existence, Driss has time to enjoy herself. He occasionally calls escorts to join him in bed and continues to make unsuccessful attempts to hit on Magali. She discovers some potentially lethal weapons in his backpack one morning after Ivan visits his room to chastise him for being late, but she chooses not to speak on them just yet. Driss's job today is to transport Philippe, but he won't load him into the rear of a van like freight. He drives him instead in one of the expensive but rarely used cars. After initially believing that this is inappropriate and that they should be practical, Philippe eventually becomes enthused about the prospect of a quicker, more exciting trip. A neighbor is parked at their entry when they attempt to exit the building, much to Yvonne's continued disapproval. Driss doesn't waste any time in pursuing the man, seizing him by the front of his shirt and frightening him until he moves the car, despite the sign on the door warning against it. Though Philippe is impressed by his activities, Yvonne is not impressed again. The two go to a museum, where Philippe wants to purchase an artwork, but Driss thinks it's just a red stain on a canvas, thus it's not worth the money. Later, Philippe meets with a relative who informs him that Driss' violent tendencies are causing concern for everyone. He has also learned that he has a criminal history. Philippe is unconcerned though. Because he doesn't feel sorry for him and doesn't mind making jokes with him, he appreciates Driss. Following yet another missed effort to strike Magali, Driss and Yvonne have dinner together in the kitchen. As Philippe claims it's a private conversation and dictates a letter to Magali, Yvonne switches off the baby monitor and explains what's happening. Philippe corresponds by letter with a woman named Aner. The letters are those. Though he hasn't really met Eleanor, he didn't let Driss open. Their bond is nothing more than a pistol air. When it comes to love, Driss makes fun of Yvonne for the constant glances the gardener gives her right before bed. As he tries to fall asleep, he hears strange noises coming from the baby monitor. Even if he tries, Philippe cannot ignore him and is having difficulty breathing. Driss visits his room and uses a moist cloth to wipe his face and comforting words to lead him through the attack. After a while, Philippe nods off, but a few moments later he wakes up again and says he needs air. Driss doesn't think twice this time. After strapping Philippe onto the wheelchair and putting on blankets, he walks him down to the water. For Philippe, seeing Paris at night is a novel experience, and he feels more at ease now. He tells Driss that the medication has its limitations and that occasionally, when they see girls strolling by, he feels phantom pain. Philippe also acknowledges that his circumstances prevent him from being able to satisfy a lady, yet he can find some delight in having his ears massaged because they are sensitive areas. Philippe, who is initially dubious but eventually grows to love it, shares one of Driss' joints with him when the ghostly pain returns. They travel to a restaurant, where they laugh and eat together, and Philippe makes the decision to tell more of his story. He had met his wife in their undergraduate days, and not long after their marriage, she suffered 5 miscarriages and received a terminal sickness diagnosis. That's when Elisa was adopted by them. Paragliding gave Philippe the speed, competitions, and extreme activities he has always liked. He broke his vertebrae in a paragliding accident due to inclement weather, yet he still believes that living without his spouse is his true disability rather than the chair. Philippe remembers the date after all of the fooling about, and finds out that Driss has successfully completed his 1-month trial. That makes him an official hire now. However, he must first return the cloth egg that he took. Since his wife gave it to him as a gift every year, he has exactly 25 that correspond to their time spent together. When Driss visits Mina the following day as she is leaving school, she gets a little upset because he hasn't been responding to her messages other than asking her to find the egg. She also informs him that some police officers have been phoning their house. When he later sees Adama, he admits that he was discovered to be carrying 30 grams. Adama declines Driss's invitation to lunch and boards the same dubious-looking vehicle as before. Later on, Driss gets permission to be there as Philippe dictates to Magali his letter intended for Eleanor. He believes Philippe should be more direct and that this purple prose is incredibly boring. The fact that they haven't exchanged images despite this being going on for 6 months further baffles him. Philippe is forced to pick up the phone and eventually speak to her over the phone after he contacts her after seeing her phone number on one of the letters. Everything about their chat is going so well that Philippe ends up talking to her on the phone all the time, even before he and Driss go to the opera, where Driss giggles and makes fun of the costumes. The following day, Driss persuades Philippe to agree to swap photos with Aner, selecting the one of the wheelchair-using man. Later, as he's painting, Elisa barges into his room demanding cigarettes and mocking him for attempting to be creative. He gets upset and throws her out before going to visit Philippe, who is requesting that Yvonne swap out the selected photo of him with one from when he wasn't quadriplegic. Right as Driss storms in, she conceals the photo inside the escort file and complains to Philippe about Elisa, saying he should reprimand her. Yvonne agrees with Philippe and promises to speak with Elisa, but he's mainly taken aback when Driss admits that he's been painting. Days go by, and Philippe and Driss' friendship gets stronger every day. When Driss goes for a run, he takes him along for the playtime in the snow. Driss watches him on the baby monitor as Philippe gets him his first suit and chastises his daughter. Driss shows Mangali his first painting after he's finished, but she slaps him when he tries to kiss her. But Philippe says he will try to sell the picture because he enjoys it. Enjoying things like sharing joints, hiring escorts together, and purchasing a quicker car, the two of them have a terrific time together. Philippe doesn't get too enthusiastic about his birthday. Every year on this date, he has to meet with all these relatives who come to see him merely to see if he's still alive, and he appears to be startled that they're having a party. Everything will be quite dull, according to Philippe. Driss goes in search of Elisa, who is crying in her room after taking some of Yvonne's pills, which don't kill her as she thought they would, while he and the guests enjoy some live classical music. She begs Driss to speak with the boy, and he agrees to do so for a fee, explaining that she is upset because Bastien called her a tart and ended their relationship. While everything is going on, Philippe shows his relative the painting by Driss and persuades him to pay 11,000 euros for it. Returning to the dining room, Driss strikes up a conversation with Ivan, who informs him that Magali is seeing someone by the name of Fred. However, things are currently quite difficult, which gives Driss hope as the celebration starts to wind down. Driss could only laugh as Philippe forced him to listen to some of the most significant pieces of classical music ever recorded. He combs his iPod and plays Earth, Wind, and Fire's Boogie Wonderland after the band finishes before he jumps up and down in the center of the dance floor. Philippe adores seeing him dance because he is such a talented dancer, and he even gets the other guests to join him. Later, Driss reads Philippe's most recent letter from Eleanor as he puts him to bed. She told him they should get together when she visits Paris the next week and gave him a photo of herself, which she thought was very nice. On the day of the date, Philippe gets dressed in numerous ways by Yvonne and Driss until they find the ideal one. Driss takes his day off to visit Bastien and threatens him until the youngster agrees to apologize to Eliza and bring her croissants every day because it's Yvonne who will be taking Philippe on the date. He requests that he adjust his hair as well. After that, he pays his mother a visit at work, but he merely observes her. Eleanor is running very late, so Yvonne and Philippe are waiting for her at the restaurant. Philippe contacts Driss to ask him to take him away after an hour of waiting, gives up, and leaves the restaurant without realizing Eleanor is also arriving at the same moment. Driss is ecstatic when Philippe gives him the money he received for selling the photo and takes him on his private jet that same evening. The following morning, after arriving in the countryside, Philippe decides to go paragliding and drags Driss along. Despite his initial fear, Driss comes to appreciate the experience even if he doesn't want anything to do with it. Adama receives a reprimand after Driss notices the scars on his face while he is waiting for him at home. Still refusing to tell Driss about his life's events, Adama is made to wait in his room while Driss contacts Mina to reassure her and gets Philippe ready for bed. But Philippe is not yet tired. He asks Driss about his family after forcing him to gaze at a painting with him. At first, Driss is reluctant to talk about it, but finally caves in. As it happens, Adama's parents aren't really his parents, and he isn't his brother in name only. They are his uncle and aunt. His real name is Bakary Bari, and they brought him from Senegal when he was 8 years old since they were unable to conceive. However, since he had the same name as another child, They nicknamed him Idris, which later became Driss. His aunt mysteriously became pregnant one day, and more men and children followed following his uncle's death. Philippe notes that Adama requires discipline, just like Driss had discussed Elisa with him. As a result, he fires Driss to make time for his family, since he cannot live his entire life caring for an elderly man. The following morning, Driss packs his things and gets ready to leave when Bastien, sporting a more presentable hairstyle, brings his morning croissant. Magali arrives to bid her farewell. Additionally, Magali introduces Driss to his significant other, Fred, which is short for Frederick, after he makes one last attempt to make out with her. As it happens, Driss gives up right away when he discovers that Magali has no interest in males. As he leaves the house, he returns the baby monitor to Yvonne and makes fun of her for lying to him about Magali in order to get even with him. When she hands him back the escort file he created, he is disappointed to see his selected picture locked away. While Driss discards the file, he retains the picture for himself. He discovers an automobile outside, which is once more obstructing the entrance. Thus, even though he is no longer employed there, he requests that he move out. When Adama confronts him about it, Driss argues that it's an issue of principle. The two boys go to the station a few hours later to pick up their mother. Back at the house, Philippe is having supper for the first time with his stolid new caregiver. And without even giving him a taste, Philippe chooses to part ways with him. No one is around to chastise him because Yvonne is out on a date with the gardener. Days go by, and Driss returns to his former life. He orders the folks in the suspicious automobile to stop bothering Adama and goes back to hanging out with his old friends. He calls himself pragmatic and uses all the art knowledge he learned while working for Philippe to wow the employer at an interview even if he lacks the necessary expertise. He is hired as a driver as a result. Philippe is constantly in a foul temper and still doesn't like his new caregiver. He tells no one in the home to aid him with his imaginary discomfort one night. Yvonne then gives Driss a call and invites him over. That's how the issue starts out for them, with the police pursuing them first and then accompanying them to the hospital. Following that little experience, Philippe is driven to the coast by Driss, where the sight of the ocean aids in his relaxation. Later on, Driss trims Philippe's excessive beard and takes him to lunch at a restaurant. However, he leaves because Philippe will have company today from someone else. Before departing, Driss eventually returns his egg to him and wishes him luck. Before he sees who his date is, Philippe begins to worry about being alone himself. Lainer, who is ecstatic to meet him and is completely fine with the chair. Philippe Pozzo di Borgo, the true count, is currently a resident of Morocco. He has 2 daughters from his second marriage. The genuine Driss, whose true name is Abdul Yasmin Salut, owns his own business, is married, and has 3 kids. Even now, the 2 men remain extremely good friends. Ensure that you subscribe and enable notifications in order to view more videos similar to this one. I appreciate you seeing.